Hi, mystery writers. Welcome to Write a Killer Mystery. I'm Zara Altair, and today I want to talk about good flaws in your protagonist. First, I want to thank my patrons on Patreons for supporting Write a Killer Mystery and my writing, and if you would like to support Write a Killer Mystery, the link is in the description below. Thank you. Okay, so good flaws connect your character with your reader. Um, Everyone has flaws, and some are more appealing than others. Flaws and weaknesses keep your hero from being unrelatable. And all good character isn't believable. And unbelievable characters keep your reader from empathizing. If your reader doesn't empathize, they don't care. And they won't want to follow your character through 300 pages of your story. Without flaws, your character is either flat and uninteresting or too good to be true. And either way, you won't capture your reader's interest enough to care to learn about their story. Flaws and weaknesses in your character allow them to make mistakes and bad choices that lead to a compelling story. A protagonist who never makes mistakes or gets scared and doesn't misread a situation may end up relying on outside forces to drive the plot, and that's exactly what you don't want to do. Your protagonist is the one that drives the plot and drives the story. And so you're going to end up with a protagonist that's reactive, doesn't lead the story, and leaves the readers cold. They just won't care. So you want to choose a flaw or flaws that fit with the story. And if your character can't cook and cooking isn't part of the story, that flaw doesn't matter. Your character's weaknesses drive the mistakes they make that complicate the story. And if the flaw doesn't fit the story, the whole situation will feel forced and readers, once again, won't care. And on the other hand, significant dysfunctional flaws will also drive away your reader. Big flaws can drive your story out of the plot. In other words, that big flaw takes over the story. And in a mystery, your detective's main role is to solve the puzzle. And that challenge takes precedence over any flaw that debilitates your character's actions. It's just like being too perfect. Major dysfunction is just too much. So character flaws make your reader worry about your hero. I think that's what you really want. You want your character, they care enough that when something happens and they make a mistake or they misinterpret something because of the flaw, your reader worries and like, ooh, oops, now what's going to happen? And you want them to have that feeling. So let's look at some ways that you can choose flaws that aren't too big and take over the plot and aren't so small that they're meaningless for the character and the story. So when you understand your story, when you understand your character, you use their personality to choose flaws that fit their character and the story. And one of the biggest ones that you can use is fears. This doesn't have to be great big ones. I'm going to give you a list in a minute, but fear is a strong motivator and it's relatable for your reader. Everybody feels fear. And they also work in the story because they lead to mistakes and wrong decisions and out of character behavior. Out of character is like, your character is strong and then they have this flaw and it messes up everything. So you'll have ample opportunity to add conflict in your story. Fear can be rational, like a fear of snakes, or irrational, like a fear of clowns or dolls. So in a mystery, the fear does not need to be the thing your character must overcome to win. Remember, a detective story is all about solving the puzzle. In fact, when details line up to overcome the fear, your story may feel, once again, too perfect and too seemingly convenient, or worse, coincidental. So let that flaw get your character into trouble, but don't let overcoming that flaw take over the story. Instead, aim for fears that hinder your sleuth in their goal pursuit, that create conflict and cause trouble. That's the main reason you want them in your story. And as you work on your character background, ask questions that reveal fears. This is going to help you figure out which flaw really suits your character and the story. So you can think about past traumas that may affect their behavior, or an irrational fear that alters normal behavior. Do they have a secret fear that nobody knows about but them? That's going to be a little more work on your part as a writer to work that into the story, but that can work, a secret fear. And then also, what is their publicly known fear? Something that everybody knows. This character just doesn't like snakes, or whatever it is. Do they have fears that relate to the current problem in the story? And is there a fear caused by a plot problem? And also, is there a fear drawn from internal conflict? So you have lots of ways to go about finding fears that can impact your character and impact your story. And once you choose your character's fears, show them early in your story so the reader knows they are a problem. And you're setting up your readers' questions for situations where the fear can cause failure later in the novel, and your hero can overcompensate by mistakes made in fear and make more mistakes. So it helps you add complications in your story as you go. Another place to look for flaws is personal prejudices. And these are things that may be cultural. They may have learned them from their family or their peers. They're usually ingrained since childhood. They've just always felt that way. And your hero's attitudes and opinions can keep her from clear understanding, especially when your sleuth encounters suspects, and ingrained opinions keep your character from acting in wise ways. So preformed opinions start your character off on the wrong foot. They can misread or mishear a suspect's statement or form a wrong impression of a victim, leading them to ask the wrong questions of suspects. So this is their opinion overrides what could be, say, a rational, impartial view. So you can consider your character's background, their culture, their family traditions, their schooling, anything like that that creates a flaw. So what did they learn to disapprove of or dislike when they were a kid? And then what pushes their buttons? This is a good one. What pushes your character's buttons? What just turns them irrational immediately? And then what actions or beliefs do they believe are wrong? So they're going to prejudge other characters in your story. And what are their intolerances? They just have no truck with drinking, or they have no truck with women who cheat or men who cheat, depending on your character. But it's like they have these preconceived notions of how they think and what is intolerant for them. And then you might want to know, what will they fight about? What is it that will just drive them to the point of an actual physical fight? And then also another big one is what causes them shame. Um, and then what do they believe is bad, even if it's accepted in the current world? So they may hold a personal opinion about something that's bad that the rest of the world doesn't necessarily think is bad or reprehensible. So biases and opinions affect how your sleuth interacts with the world, with other people, with settings, and how they perceive the culture around them. So it's a great places to look for weaknesses in your character. And then the other one is what I call their good trait. So they have some strength that you've pointed out toward the beginning of the story, and then they can take that trait too far. So good traits can turn into flaws. For example, if your hero always does the right thing but is surrounded by people who don't, he's going to get blocked because they don't even care what the right thing is, and then he's stuck. Or if she's tenacious and encounters a situation that requires her to give up, she'll be in trouble. She just won't give up no matter what. So force your hero to go against their nature, and you can add internal conflict to an external goal. Study your character's good qualities and then ask, what trait symbolizes your character's soul, their essence? What is the trait that is them? And then what positive trait could become a flaw, and in what situation? So you can look at that and figure out some situations in your story that are going to bring this to light and cause them trouble. And then, how can a positive trait cause as many problems as it solves? And then what trait do they have that is a positive trait, but it just annoys the heck out of the other characters? And they're going to respond differently in that regard. And then what positive trait holds back your character? How does that positive trait hold them back? So play with the ideas. This whole idea of choosing flaws for your character is all about playing with ideas and who they are, and of course knowing your character well. So turning good traits into flaws deepens your character and ties your reader to their problem. It's a really good one to use. And your reader already understands the positive trait, and now they understand how it led your hero into a problem. So the whole idea of weaknesses and flaws in your character in this story is it actually strengthens your story. It gives you complications. It deepens the character. It helps you build conflict and obstacles that your character must overcome in this story. And you're building tension for your reader as they wonder how your hero is going to get out of this situation that is a result of their own weakness. So flaws and weaknesses lead your character astray, making decisions that lead to new complications and heading toward a challenge to the weakness and misunderstanding or misjudging other characters. So there's just so many ways you can bring up the flaws and make them work in your story so they work positively for the story and against your character at that moment in time in your plot. So flaws are good for your story and help you create a great character. So What is a good flaw? That was the title of today's episode, A Good Flaw. It is a weakness that is in your protagonist's personality and works in your story without overwhelming either one, either the character or the story. You want it just to flow naturally from the way your character behaves and the way that your character proceeds in the story. Okay, so good flaws. It's fun to play with. They're just fun to play with. All right, so if you love talking about mysteries, I'd like to invite you to my private Facebook group, Mystery Writer Studio, where we talk about writing mysteries, and I go live once a week with some little tip, just like today's tip here, but where you can interact with other mystery writers, so and invite you to join the Mystery Writer Studio on Facebook. All right, thank you. And if you like this episode and you like finding out more about writing a great mystery, please subscribe and click that little notification bell so you know when the next episode of Write a Killer Mystery is here. And I will see you next time.